All right. Welcome to the CXM experience. And I've got a special guest today. So we've actually been having a few more guests recently. It's been awesome. And today's guest is someone I actually met about a year and a half ago. And her name is Sepi Saidi, and she is the CEO of SEPI Enterprises. And it is a design and consulting engineering firm. It's a civil engineering firm, although most people would say there are no civil engineers. That's a whole university joke. Sorry about Sepi.
That was good.
The circumstances where we met were kind of fun. So I was in North Carolina. It was like November of, I guess, 2019. And I was in North Carolina to do a speech and at a really interesting gathering of sort of business leaders in the Raleigh kind of metropolitan area. And then it was a kind of a very memorable time for me because I flew down. John Chambers was speaking as well. So I think I was before John. And then John did a session afterwards. So it was John Chambers, myself, and a bunch of other interesting speakers from the area. And then I met Sepi. We had dinner, I think, the night before. Then we sat at the table that day and kind of got to know each other. And we had really great connections. She's really awesome. You're going to really love this podcast today. And then I got on a plane and I flew 18 hours. No, it was 23 hours. 23 hours to Singapore. Did a speech, checked into the hotel in the morning, freshened up, and then went and did another speech in Singapore. Checked out of the hotel. I literally checked in the hotel at 10 o'clock and left the hotel 9 hours later, at 7 o'clock at night. Went back to the airport and then flew 21 hours to Toronto, where my mom was having heart surgery, and got there in time to sort of see as she came out and take her home and all that kind of good stuff. And then somehow I think I got a flight back from Toronto to New York, but it was essentially I was in the air most of the time for about 3 days. So Sepi, you're at the beginning of that journey. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Very good to be here, Brad. And I have to say, you made a big impression on me on that visit. And I thought, gosh, this guy's so creative. This is so neat. And remember your business cards and looking at all the colors. And I took him and you gave me, I said, can I have every color of them? So you gave me
That's right.
every color.
I gave you the full story, right? I put them all down on the table.
The whole story.
Yep.
Yeah, I loved it. And I took it back to our marketing department and I said, gosh, I met the neatest person. You look at this and maybe when we get a chance to get him over here to talk to you all. And then COVID happened and everything changed. But it was fun. It was a great time.
Well, I do Zoom calls.
We need to do that.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
On it.
Anytime.
Yes.
Yeah,
yay,
anytime.
Awesome.
And nothing that marketers like more than being told that another marketer had done something cool. That people love that.
They loved it. They loved it.
And did I get the name of your firm correct?
It's actually SEPI Inc.
SEPI Inc. Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Okay,
You made it sound even better. You made it SEPI Enterprises.
SEPI Worldwide.
Wow. Maybe we need it global.
And what's your URL? What's your website address?
It's sepiinc.com. www.sepiinc.com.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. So, and do you have, by the way, do you have a social presence? Do you have Facebook page or a Twitter?
I don't have Facebook, but I have Twitter account at Sepi Saidi.
Okay.
And I have Instagram. Again, I think Sepi Saidi.
Sepi Saidi. Okay, great, awesome. Okay, well, Sepi, welcome to the show. So I'll just kind of let listeners in on a little bit of like what we've been working on. So one of my great friends, I would say, at this point, and also peers, is someone named Diane Adams. And Diane is the Chief Culture and Talent Officer at Sprinklr. Diane and I started about a week apart, and thank God she started a week before me, so she was able to hire me and do my employment contract. And so Diane and I have been really heavily partnered from day one, and there's been a really great collaboration between marketing and HR, and we've done a lot of really neat things around the advocacy side and branding and all that kind of stuff. But Diane and Sepi have been talking about doing their own podcast, which is like, I think, super cool. And so we're just giving them a little bit of like the bit of the journey that we've been on. We're approaching our 100th show, so that's pretty cool. And so we're sort of sharing that sort of process. And they've been thinking about doing that podcast about the challenges and the joys and the sort of tips and tricks, et cetera, of being a successful and high powered woman in business and the challenges and inspiration for other women in business as well. So that's sort of where we've been going with it. And when that does get launched, I'll be all over promoting it because I think it'll be a great show and well needed. There aren't too many like that. But so Sepi, why don't we just talk about that for a minute? So what sort of made you and Diane think about doing a show in that vein, and what was it that makes you want to talk about it? What's the need that you see out there for others?
That's a great question, Grant. And Diane is a really close friend of mine. We've known each other for, I think it's coming up maybe on 15 years or more,
It's pretty good.
and met in the Raleigh business community and then bonded individually as just women who liked each other, really admired each other. And I certainly admire her, just a phenomenal woman. The reason I think we thought about the podcast was both of us have had a long history of working as professional women and kind of challenges and opportunities, so on. And we get quite a bit of asks from other women, either the ones who are entering the workforce or have various challenges in their careers that they want to talk to us individually. We meet with a lot of individual people, but it's becoming harder to individually have that one-on-one conversation to share our thoughts and our experiences. So one day I was talking to Diane, and I don't know whose idea was it, but if it goes great, I say it was my idea. If it doesn't, I'll say it was Diane's idea.
Brilliant. Oh, you're
But
catching on very quickly. This is great.
we, we talked about it and we said, what if we do a podcast and kind of share those experiences, because it's becoming very difficult to have one-on-one meetings with people.
Right, right.
And that's kind of the start of it. And we're both extremely passionate about women in workforce and women in leadership, and we see a lot of opportunities to hopefully support women to not have to go repeat what we did, or the steps, maybe missteps, or where we didn't quite get it right 20 years ago, and to be able to share that with them, and so hopefully they'll have an easier journey,
So,
and more success.
oh well, yeah, I think you and Diane have done very well, but I hear you. Let's talk about some of those stories. I think one of the things that'd be kind of fun today is for you to sort of practice with me on kind of how you and Diane will kick this off. So let me ask you just a couple questions just to kind of get the ball rolling. So as you think back over your career, which is very impressive, what would you say was a moment, if you feel comfortable, by the way, you can also say, I'm not going to answer that question. Um, but what would be a moment where you would say you felt at a low point or maybe at your lowest point, where you maybe were questioning what you're doing, how you're doing it? Did you have one of those just like, and I'm going to follow the follow up question, by the way, just so you know where I'm going next, it'll be how you got through it. Okay. So, but
Mhm.
talk to me about maybe the lowest point for you.
And I think we have to, I have to think about how I define a low point,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
there were many points, there were many challenges. There were many times that I felt that I deserved the promotion, and I was being passed over and over and over again. Those were difficult times where I felt like I wasn't able to move up. I didn't have the same network as the men did, and they felt comfortable with each other and they knew each other better, and I was totally an outsider.
Hmm.
So getting that level of comfort in those circles was difficult. So I felt it was difficult, and there were many low points in that. I think one of the probably toughest there, because so there are many challenges for women in the workforce. It's being seen for your skills and capabilities and how you can contribute to the organization, not as a man or a woman. I mean, not for your gender.
Right.
That's something that's really important and very difficult. And the other part is as women start having families, having a child, and having to be a working outside the house mom, because I think all moms are working moms. Some work inside the house, some work outside and inside. But having the child and feeling guilt towards how am I going to be happy? Is my child taken care of while I'm going to work? And the expectations of the society, because my daughter just turned 30.
Wow.
So,
Seriously?
yeah, she did. Yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
when
You have a
I, when,
30-year-old daughter?
mhm,
Wow.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you. I had her when I was 10.
That's all. Well, that's what I was gonna say, but I didn't know where to go with that one. And
So,
is she an engineer as well?
no, actually, she's in getting a PhD in clinical psychology.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
very cool. But back then, so it was the dynamic of the workplace was very different. So you were still looked at as a female, that your primary responsibility was taking care of your children, and so for me that was a difficult decision. I was passionate about being an engineer, wanted to continue being an engineer, and then I felt the pressure about, am I making the right decision? So there are many different aspects of, I think, my career personally, that I would say there were challenges, there were many low points, and how do you work through it? It's all different.
So yeah, so let's just role play for a second. So there's a new role or a new job opening or a promotion that's coming up. You think you're a lock. You've been killing it, doing great work, and some schmuck who's like, doesn't even show up in the afternoons gets it instead, and you're passed over. What do you do that night? And then what do you do the next day? And then what do you do the next week? And what do you do the next month to manage through that kind of disappointment? How did you deal with that?
It's initially it's just like how you do with any disappointment. You either go to the bathroom and cry a little bit, or
It's fair.
go home and get mad at your cat, or if you have a pet. So it's just kind of emotionally it's difficult. And I have to tell you, the most important part of it for anybody, and especially for women, is that when you get passed over numerous times, initially you think it's you. That's the toughest part. You feel like I am not capable enough, I am not qualified enough. And that really works on one person's self esteem, that you feel
Mm,
like, it's just me. It's not that, is this, I was passed over for somebody who is not as qualified. You feel it's you. And after a while, to get beyond that is the most important thing, to be able to say, I believe in my capabilities, I believe I have skills, I'm qualified. This this promotion doesn't represent who I am as a professional. And to feel that inside of you, to get that confidence, to be able to stand up and say, okay, what does it require for me to get that promotion? That's what I started doing. I said, so what am I missing? I would ask my supervisor, what do I need to do? So
mm,
I'm going to get more skills and I need to learn more. I will do whatever it takes, but not to allow that to make you doubtful about who you are as a professional is the most important thing. That for me, after a while, I started thinking about this and I said, I'm not going to let this define who I am as a person and my skills. And I'm
interesting.
going to get better and I'm going to learn more and I'm going to do more. But the point that I really think it's important for Diane and I, we want to talk about is, we don't want women to have to deal with death anymore. We don't want them to have to go through all of these self doubt and constantly thinking that I'm not good enough, and have to push through it. It has to be more easier than that. I just want it to be easier than that, for them to get more support and recognition, and allow the doors to open a bit easier.
Interesting. Yeah, it's really tough. There's a book called Mindset. I'm sure you've read it by Carol Dweck, who's a Stanford University psychologist, and she talks a lot about how your mindset affects your actions and how to coach yourself up essentially to change your mindset, because mindset tends to drive your behavior. And you see it all the time. And we get stuck in mindsets constantly, in funny, simple ways and in more complex ways. But it is difficult, I think, at times to have to coach yourself through your own mindset. I have found it personally, I've found it easier when I've got someone trying to help me there. But I'm not sure that companies tend to have the resources for that. They have resources for crisis,
Hmm.
right? Like for crisis, which is great, and many companies have great crisis counseling lines and things like that. And if you're in a really, really difficult situation, you can often get help. But to the best of my knowledge, I've never seen a company have coaching for how to get over disappointment.
That's true. But I think that one easy way would be that in a very healthy culture, a company that has a healthy culture. And I know Diane's big on culture, and I'm really
She sure
doing
is.
more of
She
that.
lives it every
So
day.
every day. So I think if we get the culture right in a company, if an individual does not get the promotion they believe they deserve,
Yeah.
that's where the culture helps, because this then the hiring manager would have a very good, healthy, frank conversation with this person and explain to them what was the reasons that they were not chosen in this particular thing, and make them understand that is you're not defected or defective, that these are the things you could enhance your skill, or it was a particular match we were looking for. So if indeed that promotion happens genuinely because this other person was a better fit, not because they were not in my club. There are two different things. When women face not being in the men's club and they get blocked, that's a very hard thing to break through. But if it's just a matter of not being the right fit for that job, then hopefully they hear it, they get explained to them much easier, they hear it, and then hope they will be ready for the next one. They get stronger, they enhance their skills. So I think the key uh, I believe, important key in the society today is to genuinely believe that we need more diversity in our workplaces. We really are committed to diversity. And when women are 50% of the population currently in the United States, to see that representation, if that representation is lacking in companies, to take very serious steps towards enhancing that, to improving that representation, and go away from cliques and clubs and those cultures in some companies, and that would be huge to
Yeah.
advance women.
Actually, 51% of the population.
51.
Yeah.
You're
So,
right.
if it was an election, they'd win. Let's talk about one more thing in mindset, which is interesting. Dr. Dweck talks about this concept of grit, GRIT, grit. And what she found was that grit was associated with a success, right? So that, and in fact, the grittier you are, which is I think the ability to kind of get yourself through tough times, you're more likely to be successful. So, talk to me about the grit that you've had to have in your career, because you've obviously been successful. Diane is super gritty. Like
Mhm.
she's unbelievable, actually. I'm not sure I've ever met anyone with as much grit as Diane. I jokingly told her after getting to know her, this was after getting to know her for a while, probably at least a year into a pretty intense time at the company, and we were spending a lot of time working together. I made a comment to her that her life reminded me of a country music song. Like it's like it's the old joke if they played a country music song backwards, you'd get back your dog, you'd get back your truck, and you'd get back your spouse or whatever. But talk to me about, and what I'm talking about. I mean, we're not going to get into all of it, but Diane's
Sure,
amazing,
absolutely amazing.
amazing,
Amazing,
a
truly
real
great.
model. Like I
Yes,
almost feel like whenever
amazing.
she asks me how I'm doing, I like, I got nothing. I'm doing great.
I
I
got
don't know
nothing.
what to say. I
Nothing.
feel
Yeah,
silly saying anything else, right?
yeah, right. Exactly.
And I do think that that's a good example for the organization. So talk to me about grit in your life, because I know you must have had a lot of it. Where did you have to show grit? How did you find it? And maybe give me examples of maybe where you wish you'd had more grit, and if you went back, you'd add
You know,
some.
I have a lot of grit, a lot. I mean, tremendous amount. And I would say I really got that from my upbringing. I grew up, I was born in Tehran, Iran, and in a
Oh, okay.
family of very, very strong women. My mother, my grandmother, and great aunts had careers. And actually, both of my great aunts were lawyers, and one of them was the first female criminal lawyer in Iran. And they were very strong women, and they always would be talking about importance of just being tough and solving problems and having strength and going through things. And I think to begin with, I really watched my mom. My mom was very, very strong and lots of adversity, but just really was tough and would go through it and solve problems and just to an extent that you could never get a pass for anything. Like, I mean, she would say, if you were born without legs, if you don't become a best runner in the world, it's your fault. So it was like this extreme sense of it's your life, you have to be in charge of it. And I think that that probably started that sense for me. And then when we came to United States, it was right before the Islamic Revolution in Iran, and it was
Hmm.
not something we anticipated. So I was a teenager. I had come here just to get an education and go back. We weren't supposed to stay here, so all the upheaval and change that happened, I had to adapt and find a community, find a home when you have lost everything you're familiar with as an immigrant, and build a life. So all of those were very, very challenging. And you know, being in the South as a female, immigrant from a country in the world that is necessarily and the most popular countries in the world, back then, it was a lot of things where you have to be. I mean, for me, I had to be very self-aware, very strong, and I really had to believe in myself to be able to build a lot of relationships and to be able to uh, push through and a field that is male dominated. Civil engineering is a male dominated field. Getting into construction engineering work that I did, so and many obstacles along the way. But I think that you're absolutely right. Grit is everything. I think a lot of that you may have been fortunate, like me, to have been born in that environment where people gave you that strength, or you had role models to gain that strength. But I think at the end of the day, I always ask myself, when some obstacle happens or something really challenging or difficult that happens, I kind of look at it and say, what are my choices? Do I just want to kind of fall apart? That's just not a choice.
Hmm.
That's not going to make my life better. I'm not going to learn from this. It's not going to make me stronger. So that talking to yourself, like you were talking about, having that self-talk, having that awareness, and having looking at your life and say, this is my life. I need to create this. This is not up to anybody else but me. So if I don't make the right steps or don't be strong about it, and if I don't achieve what I hope and want, the only body who's going to be affected by it is me and the people who are dependent on me or love me. So I think it's important, and it's something that resilience is really, really important. And somehow maybe some of us are maybe born more resilient than others, but it's certainly something you can learn, and you can get yourself stronger.
That's a great way to put it. I should actually correct myself. As I was saying it, a little voice was going in the back of my mind that Grit's actually its own book. It's not in Mindset, although it's funny how I conjoined it, right? So Grit's actually a book by Angela Duckworth.
Yes, it is a book. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that. So, anyways, at least I'm correcting myself here. But you're right. It's like what she basically shows is that anyone striving to succeed, the secret is not talent, but some special blend of passion and persistence that she calls grit. And
So true.
It's like really. So why engineering? What got you into the engineering field?
You know, if you ask most immigrants, they would say that the family expectation is you should become an engineer, doctor, or lawyer.
Okay.
So pretty much is a family expectation that they weren't going to send me all over the other side of the world to study what I actually what I wanted. It was expectation, and I happened that I really loved it, and I once I got into it, I enjoyed it very much, and really loved engineering. I loved civil engineering. It's a built environment. You could see it. You could completely impact the world, and I think it's such a purposeful career for me. Every career is, but this directly was. I could see directly how it was impacting the lives of people. So that got me a lot of excitement and passion about it.
Well, this is one of my favorite conversations ever. I am loving this. I'm gonna stop right now, and I'm gonna pick this up. I'm gonna pick this up tomorrow, if you don't mind, Sepi. So I'm just gonna we'll keep going tomorrow, but I am loving where we're going with this, and let's keep going. So for all of you, we're gonna cut it now and come back. There'll be more of this. So for the CXM experience, I am Grad Khan, CXO at Sprinkler, and I'll see you next time.